those other issues. We got to address those other issues, acknowledge them, address them. So it's the same thing with us. We have to address things and not just keep sweeping things under the rug, not keep running and hiding from God. And then we say it's hard, because this is the thing, as I close with this thing. We are disciplined to something. Discipline is like a word of commitment. We are disciplined to something or someone. We're disciplined to something or someone or someplace. We are disciplined to something, someone, or someplace. It could be an addiction. It could be a habit. It could be a routine. Some of us will not ever be late on our job. We'll be late for church. Some of us will give our all in a relationship, whether it's even in order, whether it's marriage or not. We play house, we play husband, we play wife, and we give our all to that. I mean, I didn't play wife, okay? And some of us are disciplined to our children. Some of us, our children run the house. But anyway, some of us are disciplined to money. Some of us are disciplined to food, to gambling, to whatever, sex. Some of us are disciplined to things. And it's not hard for us to do it. I've learned with being a parent, ask your child to do something they don't want to do and see how hard it is. So it's the same thing with God, asking us to be disciplined to him and see how hard it is. If that's not what we want to do, if that's not what we want to do, of course it's going to feel like pressure because we don't want to do it. But once we surrender and we desire, ask God for a desire. Once we desire what God is saying, it's not as hard. It's not. Yes, our flesh kick up, but it's not as hard. It's not. It's not as hard. So we have to want it, just like anything else. It's just like anything else. We have to want to surrender. We have to want to give up what we think is our control. Our control is disobedience. Our control is disobedience. That's all it is. It's straight disobedience. We don't want to. I remember when God started first calling me. Disciples are instructed ones. They're students. It's like becoming a child. Okay? I remember when God, one of the times God was calling me, I was in the world busting it wide open, right? And I had my Christian friend. People prayed over me, had me crying and bawling and everything. But I said to my old classmate, she was my Christian friend, I said, I'm not ready to change. I'm not ready to stop cussing. I'm not ready to wear no dresses. I'm not ready to give up my life. Like, I'm not ready to stop having sex if that's what I want to do. I'm not ready to submit myself. And I was honest with myself. And then the Lord was honest with me. The whirlwinds in my life and all this, you know. And so when we get ready, and many of us, the floor have to come from beneath us. And we have to see hell is real. And don't want that. What's worth your salvation? And we have to think of it like this. If we're struggling with God now, how are we going to be in heaven? Because nothing that defiles is going to get in. So if we don't want to listen now, how are we going to listen for all eternity? And God knows that. What a man sows, so shall he reap. So we have to make up our mind on that. So, but what I was thinking, I was coming to talk about is stop, and this goes into it, stop being in self-sabotage or self-bondage. We have to be okay with who God created us to be. So this came from me struggling within myself, dealing with something, right? And I've dealt with something, a couple of things all my life, all right? One was weight. And so, and one was just plain me, okay? Because I had heard so many negative things about me that that's all I saw at some point. That's all I saw. And so it took years. It took years, literally years. And it took me meeting Christ for me to start to see as God saw. It was right before I met Christ, and the Lord gave me these instructions. And I had to stand in the mirror and talk to me. I had to stand in the mirror and declare things over myself. Even when I didn't believe it, even when I didn't want to receive it. Okay? But I forced myself to do it because I wanted to be delivered from me. And I wanted to be delivered from all those things that I heard. There's so many of us doing things and is in bondage. So at one point, I had everything exposed for a few years. Then when I didn't live like that, mainly around my children. My children are used to me being wrapped up and stuff. But when I got to a point, a small period in my life where it was me here in the South by myself, and I listened to the wrong voices, but I didn't know the Lord then. I was still running. And it was like, you're never going to meet anybody wearing all those clothes. I really had so much low self-esteem that I didn't realize what my body really, appeared to be to other people. Until I started walking around, everything exposed. But I didn't like that type of attention, but I loved that type of attention. So my flesh loved it. But in my mind and in my spirit, it was a scary thing to do because everybody ain't write it. Everybody ain't write it, okay? So just because a person exposes themselves don't mean they're confident. Many times, women take everything off because they're not confident. Because if you're confident, you can wear a paper bag and already know it's all well with you. Because the man that God has allotted to you, especially, I'm talking to the daughters of the house of God. I'm not talking to the world. Because the world, sure, they're going to say, no, you got to take it all off. So I'm not talking to the world. But if you're a daughter in the house of God and you still agree with the world, that's because you're living through your flesh. You're not living through your spirit. God had to tell me, even last year, you're valuable. This year, you're an asset. Okay? When I first came to this part of the South, 2023, he had to tell me to love myself. I thought I was already there. Okay? But evidently, I wasn't. I was too busy loving other people. Willing to fight for other people. Go round for round for other people. But you gotta love yourself, beloved. You gotta love yourself. And if all you can see yourself is as a trophy, you got yourself in bondage. You got yourself in bondage because you're fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. So what does that mean? When people see you without us saying a word, do they see God? Do they see Lord Jesus? Right now, if the Lord was to come into that room you're in, would you feel ashamed or would you be honored? That's how you know where you are. Do we have honor in ourselves? Do